grapefruit! Fake! Fake! Fake grapefruit! Fake! Liar! You liar!
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. And it is that time, folks. It is that time. It is Friday, and it's a fuck it all Friday in my book. It has been one hell of an SHTF week. Mr. Ooman has checked in officially. For once, I beat you to the studio, Ooman. Holy cow. It is bad news, folks, out there. Let's start with this. Let's start with the top story. Well, let's look at this. This is put together by Mr. T. Do you recall back in the 1990s, the Clinton administration came to power? They wanted to rule. Hillary actually used that word back in the early 90s. And there was an anti-government separatist movement happening. And it became represented in deep state action with Waco and then Ruby Ridge. The idea of people who wanted to govern themselves and live by their own standards. Well, the government took action. And it was followed by the Patriot movement. The Patriot movement grew very fast. The Michigan militia, the militia of Montana, to name two of the most prominent militia groups out there, where people said, hey, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It spoke, right, the Second Amendment of the militia. Well, in an act of desperation, the United States government put together a plan under the Clinton administration, and it was called Operation Blow the Fuck Up Out of Oklahoma City. And they did. They blew off a low-power fertilizer bomb. I mean, it'll blow a human apart, but it was incredible that they blew up a truck bomb and claimed that that is what took out all of the steel-reinforced concrete columns 3 feet thick and took down the front of the Murrah building, the federal building in Oklahoma City. In an act of desperation, when they were losing ground, when the American people were rising, they put down Waco. They put down Ruby Ridge. America started to rise again, and they put down the militia movement, made militia and patriot a dirty word. Then we got to the George W. Bush Republican administration. And it was going to be exposed at a time when the government didn't want to be exposed for their bad bookkeeping. Donald Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense, Dick Cheney, Vice President of the United States, and of course, the smart one, Mr. Bush. Well, there was some trouble. There was a lot of trouble. They needed some more war. They needed some more distractions. America was in trouble. So we had 9/11. One of the planes that was shaped a lot like a missile hit the Pentagon and took out the section that had the office where $2.1 trillion was discovered to be missing off the books. No accountability, because for some reason, that section of that building got taken out by a supposed airplane that was shaped like a missile. And the public was never, ever provided security footage from government, military, or civilian cameras that witnessed the action. They claimed it was going too fast to be filmed. The fact of the matter is, commercial airlines can't fly as fast as they claim at ground level. It would have been perfectly visible. There would be witnesses everywhere. And on top of that, folks, a lot of interesting things happened at, World Trade Center, Tower 1 and Tower 2. But Building 7 also just seems to collapse after the office containing investigation paperwork. It caught on fire, and then the entire building fell down. Building 7, folks, a 44 story super high-rise building in New York City was not hit by an airplane or a missile or anything. But somehow it managed to collapse right into its own footprint without anything having gone wrong, other than some paperwork caught fire in an office. You see, when the government is in trouble, they just happen to happen. We are now in one of those situations, folks. I hope you're prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, your plan in your head. Put it on paper if you have to. I hope you've got solar power backup. I hope you've got a generator. I hope you've got everything you need, because we are now facing a serious threat, folks, a serious threat. Texas, the sovereign state of Texas. Every state in this union is sovereign, folks. I can prove it right now. You want to know how I know each one is sovereign? Because every one of them has its own constitution. Everyone's aware of that, correct? Raise your hand if you're aware of that. Uman's not raising his hand, everyone. Oh, wait, he just raised his hand. I love fucking with you, man. Anyways, every state has its own constitution. What is the point of having that if it's a mandatory constituent member of the federal government in DC? It's not. They have their own individual constitutions. And then we're all come together under the umbrella constitution of the federal government. Interesting, no? So Texas is acting unilaterally. Well, actually, it's no longer unilateral. Unilaterally would mean all by itself. But it did. It started out that way. Basically, it said to Joe Biden, the executive branch of the federal government, the United States Supreme Court, and basically all of DC, go fuck yourself. So the federal government is starting to lose control over the mindset of the people. Oh, wait, I forgot and left out a story. That story was 2020, when the people of the United States of America said, hey, this is bullshit. We're not buying this fucking election crap. The entire year has been shot to shit with your bullshit COVID and your bullshit BLM, St. George Floyd crap, mostly peaceful protests. Go fuck yourself, right? And in the middle of a protest that was fully peaceful, an assault started against the people of the United States, and they claimed it was an insurrection. Look at what Texas is doing, folks. Is Texas participating, initiating, starting an insurrection? This is a quote. Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, was speaking to none other than Tucker Carlson. Fox's biggest mistake ever. Well, no. Fox's biggest mistake was calling the election for Joe fucking Biden in certain states ridiculously early, pissing everyone off. Anyways, they let Tucker Carlson go. Also a big mistake. I don't think he's a good presidential or vice presidential candidate, but I think he's just fine in his news chair. So, Greg Abbott said to Tucker, "We are prepared for conflict with the Biden regime over the border. Texas has control of its National Guard, folks. But get this, 10 other states have not just sent money or barbed wire. They have sent their National Guards to defend Texas against invasion. Invasion, folks, is what we're dealing with. After 3 fucking years, they're finally calling it what it is, an invasion. I mean, if they were wearing camouflage and they called themselves the People's Liberation Army, the PLA of China, we would have called that an invasion, right? If it was Russian Spetsnaz, there'd be a problem there. Be a problem there. Woo, problem. But, because it was civilian dressed people from Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, the Middle East, Northern Africa, and Russia and China. We're just going to call them refugees. You see, they want to call them refugees, folks, but they're an invading force, and they're incredibly arrogant and entitled, showing up here to screw us over. I think the Biden regime has committed insurrection. They have taken over the government, the Democrat Party and Biden. They're ignoring their obligations, their duties, their requirements as officers and elected officials and appointed bureaucrats, as well as judges who have completely disregarded the Constitution. They're the insurrectionists. But it's starting in Texas. God bless Texas. But Greg Abbott said, we are prepared for conflict with the Biden regime. He didn't say we're going to arrest anybody. He didn't say we're going to do what we want and we'll get in fights. He said conflict, folks, conflict. When you talk about the military, and the Texas National Guard is the military, state, or you can say National Guard units from various states have been deployed around the world to fight in our wars, especially the last 30 years. They are the military. As much as people want to joke about the National Guard, they have, M16s, not just AR-15s. They have their own equipment. They have their own everything. And guess what else they have, Joe Biden? They have F-16s. Is this an insurrection by Governor Abbott, folks? You see, this isn't Waco or Ruby Ridge. Think about it. Waco and Ruby Ridge. That was just some little people, a little church. Or the Clive and Bundy protest, right? The Clive and Bundy standoff, where it wasn't a religious group. It was basically generalized groups of Americans having had enough of getting screwed over. This is a state, Texas, saying fuck you directly to Washington, D.C., and just absolutely refusing obedience to tyranny. Is this insurrection? Will you fight for your country? And I'm not talking about for D.C., for the country itself, for the state in which you live. Will you fight? Interesting shit going on. Is this a correct? In other words, do we have a false flag or black swan in our futures? Folks, the Dominion voting machine hackability in federal court that was exposed It started with hacking with a Bic pen, ended up just waylaying the entire system. How many ways from Sunday can it be hacked? Well, almost as many ways as a street hooker can turn a trick to make you smile funny and then walk with a bad limp. Anyways, 2020 was a fraud, folks, of the election. Here we are. Here we are. But get this, it gets better. Not only in Georgia and federal court was the election system exposed for what it is, Georgia, the state itself, appears to be changing over to paper ballots. And I recommend everyone, whether you live in Georgia or not, call up your or anybody's representative in Georgia. Find a Republican and scream at them via email, text, phone call, whatever you've got, and tell them to go to paper ballots. This is on Lou Dobbs, folks. Lou Dobbs is reporting that Georgia's probably moving to paper ballots. Fuck Attorney General Ratspermberger, who's supposed to be a Republican, who has drug his heels, obstructed justice, refused subpoena, if I'm correct, because everyone in Congress wanted to know what is the deal, who said what, when, and where. They recorded Trump in an effort to try and frame him and failed on that. They absolutely showed that they are the deep state. Ooman sent me a message saying, you guys have got your questions to ask. I can't wait to fucking get to them. I know we're supposed to go back and forth, but I wanted to go through that insurrection and the top things that are happening right now in America, the border, and what is going to happen at this voting system. Sounds like a job for BLM and Antifa and St. George Floyd. Well, let's do this. Let's see what you guys want to talk about. Free for All Friday, Mr. Uman, who is up? Where we want to start? And Orlando says, John, Florida and Oklahoma assist with National Guard while boom booms go to the UK. Well, thank you, Mr. Orlando, and thank you for the communications I get from you daily, brother. Oklahoma, good, and good. Florida, also stepping up. Well, I thought that Governor DeSantis was sanctimonious, and no, he's a good fucking governor, folks. A lot of the governors are good, but here's what I have to say, and we talked about it this morning, or I did as I drove in the dark. We are the ones who determine what Congress does, and the louder we shout, the more these idiots stand up and go, okay, I guess I can do my job, right? Start screaming and yelling even louder, and these politicians will respond because we are legitimate, okay? The governor of Oklahoma, he is sending his National Guard down to Texas. Good. DeSantis, good. Right, Governor Naomi Christie, I believe is her name, or is it Christie Naomi? There we go. I got it backwards, folks. South Dakota said she'll drive barbed wire down there in her own fucking pickup truck. That's what we need, folks. That's what we need. Now, boom booms go to the UK. I'm missing the reference. I'm sorry, Orlando. Man, folks, it has been one hell of a week. A mental brain drain on top of all the SHTF. The UK wants to send its military to fight Russia. It's ready to stand and fight with Ukraine. What a dumb mistake is that? Woo! All right. Now, this came up today also. Joe Biden posed with construction workers doing a photo op. But he was wearing his hard hat backwards. You can see the adjustment dial on his forehead. And one of the construction workers was like, hey, look at this idiot, right? Had his thumb up. They probably put it on his head backwards. He's that clueless. He's that much of a dimwit. Now, I will say a lot of guys would and have worn their helmets on backwards. If they need the brim out of the way, they need to get their face in a hole, whatever the deal is. Some of them wear their hat on backwards just to be ass wipes and funny guys, etc. But Joe Biden is supposed to be the president. And social media, of course, they lit him up for being just a jackass and looking stupid as fuck. Joe Biden is not presidential, folks. He's not cool. He's not funny. And what he's doing to America is a freaking crime beyond crime. Okay, let's do it. Mr. Uman, who is up next? We've got name redacted. Says Glenn Beck interviewed Mike Lee and talked action today. And he got very uncomfortable and started rule of law talk. He didn't want to be at the second show trials being charged with incitement. You know, yesterday I started to talk about Joe Biden doing a Benito Mussolini lookalike contest and hang from his toes. Yeah, we need to be very careful, folks. On the one hand, we need to be very careful not to get incitement discussion, even though Mad Maxine Waters can say whatever the fuck she wants. Even President Joe Biden can call parents domestic terrorists. In fact, they are labeled officially by the government, parents, as domestic terrorists. And you can have Hillary Clinton threaten us with concentration camps and death camps and re-education camps. But if you so much as raise your voice above a whisper, they'll send the goon squad FBI guys out. Once they get done playing with each other in cages, I guess, in their offices. Oh, wait, no, that's Congress. No. They're just busy having drinks down at the bar, pushing in each other's stools. Yeah, the FBI can come after you. They think it's cute. And every trial that we've heard about, at least the ones I've heard about, have been kangaroo court mockery of our justice system. In fact, that's happening today. Today, action is happening, folks. It has started. Get ready to participate. Support what action is happening. Call your congressman. Call state congressmen. Call Georgia over the paper ballots. Let's see that get rolling and pushing. It can be done very quickly, folks. If they can switch the economy around to start producing masks for cerveza bug, if they can tell Ford and GM, stop making cars and make ventilating machines and have them out in a fucking week, they can certainly print up paper ballots for the whole fucking country. Never mind the state issues and state offices, the presidential ballot. There's your choices. Trump, Michelle Obama, and write-ins. That's it. Got your libertarian candidate. You got your Communist Party of America candidate, like anyone gives a fuck. Biden is the biggest communist. Michelle Obama is the biggest communist. And they know it, folks. Or shall we say socialist or fascist? I guess it depends on what road you walked to get to that conclusion. Now, incitement. We're going to need to keep talking tough, folks. People are going to be arrested. Trust me on this. It could be me. It could be you. It could be Uman. It could be Glenn Beck. It could be Tucker Carlson. They may even try and arrest Trump, and they've discussed that there could be fear that Trump is planning a coup d'etat in Mar-a-Lago, running up to the election, and they may have to arrest him and everyone that he knows, because we all know that the country wants Big Mike to swing his ball sack into the White House and be the next president. Unbelievable. Charged with incitement. Insurrection. Now, speaking of the kangaroo courts, the kangaroo court system sent a message to America and said, stop associating us with what's going on. The courts are so embarrassing that even the kangaroo courts don't want anything to do with this. Get this, Trump, he's in this trial with this Jean Carroll broad, who says the dress she has is what she was wearing when Trump sexually assaulted her and raped her. It is a complete bullshit show trial, and it's continuing. And today, the judge threatened the attorney with jail time. Jail time. Get this. The judge's name, by the way, is Kaplan, and the plaintiff's attorney is named Roberta Kaplan. Anyway, she said this: Donald Trump has tried to normalize conduct that is abnormal. This is coming from a Democrat, folks, that Trump is trying to normalize abnormality. The party of abnormality, folks, is the Democrat Party. They're trying to normalize, folks, the Democrats. They want to normalize drag queens, trans-testicle trannies, child porn and grooming, open border policy, giving billions of dollars to a mini dictator in Ukraine, literally classifying parents as domestic terrorists, abandoning 50,000 Americans in Afghanistan as normal. Those things are normal, and on and on and on we could go. But Trump trying to defend himself, or his attorney trying to object to bullshit in the courtroom. They're told you will silence, you'll be quiet, or I'll lock you up. That's normal. Everything about the Democrats, folks, is really fucked up. And they're trying to say that Trump is trying to normalize conduct that is abnormal. Here we go. Chin Music says, breaking jury has ordered Trump to pay that ugly hag $83 million. E. Jean Carroll cannot name the date, the year even. There is no witness. She has never talked about it with anyone. This event, this supposed attack, happened over 20 years ago with zero evidence, zero proof, no doctor, nothing, no police report, nothing. She just came out. And this sick, twisted bitch has a rape fetish. She has a sexual deviancy fetish, as demonstrated if you go check out the articles covering her social media posts. And she's focusing her craziness, and she does have crazy Democrat eyes, folks. Crazy shit, folks. Crazy. $83 million. Fuck. Thanks, Chin Music. Wow. 83. Holy shit. I remember 20 years ago, I was in a dressing room somewhere and Trump raped me, and I want my $83 million. Where do I sign up for that lawsuit? And he called me bad names, and he made me feel guilty and dirty. It was terrible. I won $183 million. What a fucking joke. But speaking of fucking jokes, folks, former New York Congressman George Santos, a Republican. Remember, folks, in Congress, you have liars left and right. You have AOC, right? The bitch you can eat an apple through a picket fence and won't get any splinters in her lips, right? Lied about being on the scene where there's children in cages. Nancy Pelosi claimed that she wasn't drunk while serving as a congresswoman. Yeah, watch the video footage. Lying about being in the Capitol on January 6th when they weren't. Oh, you want more lies? How about Adam Klitstinger? How about, right, and he was a phony Republican. How about all of them, folks? The jackass Swallowswell sleeping with a Chinese fucking spy while being on the Intelligence Committee, having access to state or Nazi state, U.S. state secrets. Adam Shifty Schiff shithole. Adam Shifty Schiff shithole lies about Trump for years in Congress, on the record, in front of the American people about the President of the United States. He lied. All he got was a censure, which is basically a check mark saying you're a bad boy. But George Santos, is slimy and weaselly as he looks, claimed to be Jewish, and they expelled him from Congress. No trial, no due process, no formal hearing of any sort. Expelled. Now, he has come out today and he decided to put his head back up and make some more noise. He said congressional members have cages, right, that are and he said this, a fucking orgy hotspot. Now, the leadership in Congress has dismissed his complaints. They don't believe it. Well, of course they're going to dismiss his complaints. You think they're going to be like, oh, George Santos says. No, what he needs to do, though, George Santos needs to name the names before he's arrested or erased. He said he did take action, folks. He complained to the sergeant at arms about what was happening in there and others, and he was told, we don't have money for cameras to put in those areas to monitor them. We just sent how many fucking hundreds of billions of dollars around the world between Israel and Ukraine and Taiwan and everywhere else, but we don't have any money for cameras. Bullshit on the fucking government. Don't have money. It's not that big of a deal. So George Santos gets kicked out of Congress for claiming he's Jewish. But lying Pocahontas. That's right. You remember who she is. Yeah. Not Pocahontas, right? Lying Hontus. Liz. Claiming to be a Native American and isn't. No problem there. She even got to be a presidential candidate. That's the hypocrisy, folks. That's the bullshit. What do we got coming? What do we got coming? Are you prepared, folks? Dumbass George Santos better name some names. Better name some names. All right. Hey, Mr. Uman, who wants to step up next? And it is Barking Wolf Spider. He says, I just hope they don't pull something in the states that commit National Guard to Texas. Would be a good time to cause trouble. Hard to respond when your responders are elsewhere. Just a thought. Now, the states that are sending National Guard troops or units down to Texas are not sending every National Guard troop or unit down to Texas. I understand your concerns, Barking Wolf Spider. I understand. But follow me here, camera guy. Follow me. Follow me. How many states have passed a law or passed an announcement recognizing the Second Amendment says you have the right to keep and bear arms? Therefore, you can open carry and concealed carry. How many more states have done that? How many already allowed that without that recognition? They've known it all along. Many states, folks. How many sheriffs have said, you, the people of the United States of America, you are the first responders for law and order. They're understaffed. They don't have enough money. Thank you, Joe Biden, you fucker. They don't, folks. They know they can't be everywhere at once, and we learned that in 2020. Just with the little stupid St. George Floyd riots. BLM and Antifa fucking around, chewing up national resources for law enforcement. They did teach us and show us exactly how weak city police, county sheriff, state police are. There's not enough of them. And folks, a lot of the National Guard are police and sheriff's deputies, by the way, in case you didn't know. So there's going to be less law enforcement as well as less National Guard in many states. So we also have city government, like up in Alaska, I mentioned the other day, telling people, get armed and get ammunition. Get armed and get ammunition. Trouble is coming. Trouble is coming. If they want to pull some shit barking wolf spider, whoever's in that neighborhood, step up, right? Hit the target, win the prize. What's the prize? You are a patriot and you just saved lives. That's correct. You just saved lives. Fucking unbelievable, folks. Are you aware, by the way? Are you aware that Biden has been negotiating with McConnell? You know, why is this not bribery? Why isn't it political bribery? Mitch McConnell wants to bribe Biden with Ukraine money in exchange for reducing the number of illegal immigrants that are invading our country, that are allowed by President Biden to enter. President Biden is allowing them to enter, and he is trying to make a deal with the Senate and the House of Representatives. But Texas, by doing what they're doing, they're risking that, says McConnell. Texas and these people that are calling for shutting down the border, they're going to make this deal fail. What is the fucking deal? He wants to bribe Biden, saying, we'll give you the money to give Ukraine in exchange for you doing your fucking job and reducing the number of illegal immigrants that invade. How is this not treason, by the way? Biden negotiating with McConnell. Isn't it wrong if people are invading our country? I think that's an act of terror. I think by saying I'm going to allow people to invade the country unless you give me money for the war in Ukraine, that to me sounds like a terrorist demand. I think the president, folks, should be impeached, he should be convicted, and he should be tried for treason, for intentionally failing to do his job and then demanding money from our own government, you and me, from our government. He's demanding money from McConnell. And he will slow down the invasion. He'll slow down. He'll do less treason. Less treason. Isn't that fucking arranged? It's amazing, folks. Texas. Governor Abbott, congratulations. Kick ass in all you do. All the states need to join with Texas, folks. We got 25. All the states need to join, and all the states need to fight Biden's illegal regime, which is far worse than that of Benito Mussolini, who was hung up by his toes. Hung up by his toes. All right, Mr. Uman, I'm having a good time with this. Uman says this is from Governor Ron DeSantis. Quote, no one would have ratified the Constitution if protection for states was excluded. Correct. Now let's go back to the 13 original colonies. You know, colonies. I want all the liberals to be fucking triggered. Colony. Go back to the 13 colonies. They signed and ratified the United States Constitution. You had 13 individual free states that joined together in a union to protect one another for common cause. None of them said, look, we're going to wait for Washington, D.C. We're going to wait for New York City, way up north, to come all the way down to South Carolina. If we get invaded by France, England, Portugal, Spain, the Netherlands, they could have invaded them. You think they're going to sit around and wait for some dude to get on a horse and take 2 weeks to get all the way up to Washington, D.C., and then wait for another several months for them to muster forces to send down there? Or was South Carolina a sovereign country, aka state, has a right to defend itself, and the people of the state have a right to defend themselves and their state? So let me take this a step further. If the federal government in Washington, D.C. is not doing its job, refuses to muster adequate troops and actually commit to performing as prescribed by law, obey the Constitution, and stop the invasion at the border. If they're not going to do it, both the state of Texas, through the governor as chief executive, and, folks, commander-in-chief of the Texas National Guard. Let me use those words. The people of the state of Texas are also sovereign. This is an interesting place, folks. The original concept is we are all individual sovereigns. Because how can a state assume sovereignty that comes from the people if the people themselves don't have sovereignty to give it? Right? See where I'm going? How can the people create a government if they're not sovereign? Kings like to say they're sovereign because God says so. And so therefore they are the sovereign entity that controls the sovereign state. Well, without a king, how do we create a sovereign entity, aka government to govern a geographical area known as a state? The people, therefore, must possess sovereignty themselves. And we lend that to the government to perform duties. And if they fucking fail, or if they need assistance, we, as those same individuals with sovereign authority, can join in, aka the Second Amendment. We have a right and a duty, according to the Declaration of Independence as well, to overthrow and get rid of and kick the ever-loving shit out of bad government and replace it with a government that will serve to protect our interests and freedoms, liberties, etc. Anyways, Mr. Uman, thank you very much for that. No one would have ratified if it said, you got to lay down and let everyone kick the living shit out of you. Uman says, ham-ass soldiers dress as civilians, too. So when they get deleted, it counts as a civilian deletion because no uniform. All right, you opened up a can of worms, damn it. Something I did want to bring up today on this Fuck It All Friday. Apparently, Israel is under trial at some sort of international world court to determine if they have committed war crimes, atrocities, genocide against the people of Gaza. I'm curious, how many people here think Gaza is being absolutely abused by Israel? I don't know. I guess Uman can tell me. I know Israel is not a very fair and nice country. I know they have an apartheid system. I know they have a caste system with varying levels of who's the best Jew. I get it and I understand it. I know they're not the nicest fucking people in the government, whereas the people themselves, right, they're just people. Now, we're going to find out, folks. Let's see what the World Court says, the International Court of Justice, or whatever the fuck it is. It's going to be a mess. And yeah, Uman is absolutely correct. Everyone who dies is a civilian because there's not a government there. Palestine, it doesn't have a government, folks, with elections. It has a terrorist organization, Hamas, controlling people through fear and terrorism within Gaza. And then they attack Israel. Israel is not the nicest bunch of people, but can you imagine living with a fucking neighbor who throws grenades over the fence and into your house every other day? Do you think you'd be nice to that fucking neighbor? Do you think you would give a shit about anything they have to say? Questions. This is what happens when countries and peoples cannot get along. It results in a big fight and people getting shot. Oh yeah, Texas. Governor Abbott says they're prepared for conflict with the Biden administration and the federal government, which begs the question, will the U.S. military become involved? Will folks, Biden pick up his telephone? Call Fort Hood. Hello, Fort Hood. This is President Biden. Yes, I put my hard hat on the correct way. Thank you. The adjuster always goes in the front. I mean, come on, man. Stop the malarkey. Now, listen here, Fort Hood. I want you to get in your tanks and your troop carriers. Right? I want you to get the cavalry, get all your horses out, and I want you to head down to the border, and I want you to shoot all of the Texas National Guard. Try not to shoot the illegals, though, damn it. We love those people. They're the promise of America's future. I'm Joe Biden. I approve this message, says Obama. I should have been a fucking comedian. I love improvisationally running that fucking idiot into the ground. He makes it too easy. Anyways, Mr. Ooman, what do you think, man? Is the military, will they get called? In fact, why don't we bring you up here on the board, dude? Let's come on live for a fucking all Friday. There's my man. Hello. How you doing, Ooman?
I'm doing all right. Can't believe it's freaking fuck it all Friday again.
This is a serious subject. Okay, so the National Guard in many states has decided to obey their governors and go down and assist Texas in performing a governmental function, which is defending itself from invasion. And I think that the legal argument under constitutional sections, both the United States Constitution as well as Texas Constitution, that Joe Biden's delinquent, that they failed to stand up, and that Texas has a right to defend itself. So they called in their National Guard, and other governors have done the same to assist. Do you think it's possible that Joe Biden will call on the Army? And Fort Hood is right there. That's why I picked on Fort Hood.
Well, from what I understand, he wouldn't even have to do that. All he would have to do is declare an emergency, federalize the National Guard, and then if they disobey the orders from the Fed, then the leadership of the National Guard would be up for court-martial or whatever. Is that correct?
That's a definite possibility, right? We're now dancing between a violent rainstorm of bullets. What is treason and what is not treason?
Yeah, I mean, is disobeying the orders from your commander-in-chief going to cause a conflict? Absolutely. I completely see that they would then go after them in every legal way possible. And if they disobey that command to go under federal control, at that point, then they may bring in the Army to reel in the National Guard.
Let's start with the order itself. No one is under any obligation to obey an order that is unlawful, unconstitutional, or a violation of human rights. If Joe Biden orders them to do something and it is an unlawful order, then of course the National Guard can say, fuck you.
Well, unlawful is kind of a gray area.
Exactly.
Because what he's ordering, and everybody keeps referring to all these unlawful orders that are in fact most likely not unlawful. They may be immoral and all kinds of other things, but it doesn't make them unlawful.
We're talking about Joe Biden's orders.
Yes. Well, even the orders of the border guard, I mean, or border patrol. If the administration is ordering the border patrol to do what they're doing, that doesn't automatically make them an unlawful order, because the whole chain of command and legalities thing. I mean, it is possibly it is unconstitutional, I believe, but it does not make them unlawful. It's a gray, nasty area.
Well, we get into, I think we leave the question of legality, and I think we enter the realm of political question.
Yeah.
Politics is an integral part of the law. So, a lot of people don't think abandoning 50,000 American citizens and $86 billion in military equipment in Afghanistan, they don't think that's treasonous. I think it's entirely treasonous.
Yes, and
See, it becomes a political question.
Yeah, it's not a matter of law because they could justify it as saying there was some imminent threat that, you know, they did not make public and blah, blah, blah. So you could argue the legalities of it all you want. And it's going to come down to the prosecutor that you're presenting that case to and all the legal or all the political stuff involved in that.
So if we take this concept of two political opponents not agreeing with each other, and let's just say those are now Ukraine and Russia. Both of them think they're right. Both of them think they're legal. Both of them think what they're doing is correct. It's morally correct. It's legally correct. It's politically correct. And I don't mean that in a speech sense, but it's good politics to make these decisions. Results in war. Right? We got Ukraine fighting Russia.
Yeah.
So we've got ourselves a fucking pickle in Texas. In my opinion, at the very least, Biden is derelict in duty. And he's violated his oath, which is an impeachable offense, period.
I believe that to be the case. I mean, if you're not protecting the border as you are required to, right, and not only not protecting it, but preventing the state from protecting itself.
Correct.
That's a problem.
That's a fucking crime, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna create a false bullshit scenario so we can have fun with it.
Okay.
The chief of police stands up in front of all his policemen, and he musters them in the meeting room, and he takes his pistol out and he shoots his assistant chief of police in the head and fucking murders him. And then he turns to everyone there and says, "Okay, guys, go to work. I want you to go out and protect and serve." Who would obey that police chief at that point? Nobody.
Nobody.
He's a fucking criminal, right?
Yes.
His act was egregious and wrong. So here we have Joe Biden, whose acts are egregious and wrong. People are fucking dying, not because he pulled the trigger, but because he has created this situation. He's exacerbated it. People are dying of drug overdose. People are being fucking raped and murdered. People, the city, our treasuries are being emptied. Our social, system is being smashed.
Yeah.
Why would anyone be obligated to obey the orders from someone like that?
Yeah, it's no different than a bank robbery where the guy robbing the bank kills somebody. The getaway driver is going to be charged as well.
Accessory, yeah.
Yeah, as well as the guy who maybe planned it and didn't participate in it.
So the thing is, I created that bullshit story about the chief of police just to say, if you know someone's committed an egregious crime, what obligation do you have to obey him, even though he's wearing the correct uniform and has the correct title, and no one's charged him with a crime yet and sent him to jail? No one's charged Biden yet because they're fucking cowards, right? In my opinion, I would not obey a fucking word Joe Biden says if I was in the military. If they commanded me and my unit to go somewhere, I'd say, the fuck I will. I'm not going to go to Texas and start killing Texas National Guard. Or I'd go to Texas and say, hey, guys, we're here to help you. And I'd fucking switch sides. I'd pull a Braveheart with the Irish.
Yeah.
Anyways, it makes for a fascinating discussion, in my opinion. What is going to happen in Texas?
And it's going to be an interesting weekend. We'll see how far both sides are willing to push this thing,
Right. So
and then
will the military be called in?
It'll also be interesting to see how many of our outstanding politicians in all these states that are vowing support to Texas actually stand up and say something and maybe put forth some legislation on behalf of Texas or in regards to this entire matter. Or is it just a bunch of this again, Is it Jim Jordan up there barking and barking and barking, the dog with no teeth? And we're going to let everything we're all going to we're all going to grandstand and make big speeches and talk real tough and then accomplish absolutely nothing. So are you frozen?
Okay, you're back. We both froze. No, you're correct. Yeah, they're all going to run around, bark. They got no teeth. They're some organizations, or shall I say offices, will join and sign resolutions together to condemn or support said action. But the question I think really comes down to is who is going to take the physical action. Russia passed a resolution. Fuck Ukraine. Ukraine passed a resolution. We fucking hate you, Russia. Someone said, okay, someone pick up a gun and go kill that motherfucker. That's what I think it's going to come down to, is what will happen to set off kinetic action, military conflict. Remember, Governor Abbott said we're prepared for conflict. Mr. Uman?
I foresee that we will probably see more legal exchanges than kinetic exchanges, to be quite honest.
What about the whole notion, my friend, of needing a false flag to occur so they can paint Texas as an insurrectionist state, so they can paint Republicans as terrorists, right-wing terrorists who follow the MAGA salute to Donald Trump, the most evil Nazi white supremacist who ever lived?
It's quite
Insurrection
possible.
Part 2.
The other thing I saw, I'm not sure if it was a comment in here yesterday or somewhere else, but somebody said, what if they want Texas to secede and give up those red votes to throw some additional support or numbers onto the red side, I mean, if they declare Texas in an insurrection come November 11th, we may have a 49 state election.
Ooh, I see what you're saying. Texas is involved in a civil war with the United States government. Therefore, they can't have their votes wouldn't count. Or they just cancel the election altogether, Mr. Uman.
I don't think
state of emergency.
I don't
second
think
largest state in the union.
I don't think canceling the election would be on the table.
It is in Zelensky's view this year.
Oh, I understand, but I think we're still a ways away from that. I mean, just think, if the electoral votes from Texas don't count, what does that do to the mix of the entire electoral college votes?
Oh, the Texas cannot be lost in the electoral college count.
Yeah.
Can't afford to lose Texas or Florida, and Governor DeSantis is sending troops down there.
Yeah.
Does the federal government in Washington, D.C., any branch thereof or any organizational structure, meaning bureaucracy, can they say we are not going to count Texas in the election? Does anyone have the authority to exclude them? What provision in the Constitution allows that? Or would it be an emergency presidential order?
We're in uncharted territory, I mean, who knows?
You got it. It is unfucking charted, brother.
Yeah, there is no precedent to reflect back on or situation to look back on to see how things were handled or how things panned out. I mean, this is uncharted waters, man.
It is. It's fascinating. It's interesting. It's scary. I'm not scared in the sense that I'm shaking, but I have great concern over what's going on because it is uncharted and this is new.
It's like riding a rowboat into a hurricane, right?
Right. Yeah, it's like going into never mind. We're going to stop right there on that one. We haven't had a showdown with the federal government going after the states like this since the segregation or desegregation laws were enforced by National Guard, which was called by the president, I believe that was LBJ, to force colleges to allow black students to integrate.
Yeah.
And while you may want to say that was a great thing to do, it showed that the government was willing to send the military and at gunpoint force the governor to acquiesce. Governor Abbott is saying conflict. I am interested. Perhaps while they're down there playing games on the border, Uman, the government from the feds roll in and take the state capital.
Possible, but does that
the governor has been relieved of his office?
I mean,
can they do that?
In these days, okay, taking the Capitol, what does that do, though? I mean, they would have to take the entire legislature.
They walk into the governor's office. They say, Governor, you're under arrest. They place Governor Abbott under arrest.
Yeah. Okay.
and the lieutenant governor steps up and they say, are you going to obey or are you going to do what Governor Abbott did? And the answer is clear. He's going to get arrested because he's a fucking Texan. But, can Governor Biden, can Joe Biden appoint a governor pro tem and say, hey, we're in uncharted territory. We've got a fucking insurrection here. This is your new governor. This new governor's new order is to send the Texas National Guard home, send everyone back home. This insurrection is now officially put down.
I don't know what the state constitution would say about replacing a governor in that manner. I don't know that the president would be able to step in and appoint a governor of any state.
Right. Oh, I mean, you're absolutely correct. This is fun.
Yeah, I understand the attempt can be made. I mean, you could try anything. It would then depend on how willing would the people be to accept that.
Why did we listen to a short little midget sack of shit tell us we all had to stay in our fucking homes because it was an emergency? And they made that shit up with no fucking authority anywhere.
Yeah, and everybody complied.
Well, yeah.
The vast majority complied.
This organization right here, they get sent around the world for the last couple of centuries to follow an order and kill anyone that gets in their way. Barbary Coast pirates, right? Get over there, kick the fuck out of them. Go down to Grenada, kick the fuck out of them. Whatever it is. So using the military, this would be a new way to use it, or would it? People need to look up the Whiskey Rebellion that occurred right after the country was formed.
It would definitely explain the big push to get the top brass in the military under the woke curtain.
You got it, brother.
Listen to this
guy, folks. Listen to this guy.
Continue. That this whole change has been going on for a long time. This is not something that they pulled out of their ass when Joe Biden got elected. I mean, the whole wokeness in the military thing started before Trump.
Way before Trump.
You gotta pre-position your troops before you engage in battle, right? So you need to make sure that there are loyalists there that you can count on that are going to carry out your orders. I mean, if
loyalist, ouch.
If Trump would have cleaned house at the high levels like we all contended he should, this may be a completely different situation right now. But I have to guess that with the level of wokeness of our top military leaders, there may be something to worry about.
There's a lot to worry about. They've been chasing out white corn-fed fucking Americans for years now, keeping them out of the military. Now they can't meet their fucking goals because the little woke retards, the little limp-wristed pansies in high school, they don't want to join the military, even though they're going to be given free gender reassignment surgery. They still can't fucking fill the shoes. They've been trying to wokeize the military, so they would have no problem killing us because we're insurrectionists committing a genocide against the tranny world, in their opinions. Anyways,
it would be interesting to know what the level of that wokeness is at the various ranks throughout the military, because if it's just the top brass that's doing it, what guarantee do you have that the ones under their command aren't going to say fuck you?
I need Sergeant Major Mike to get a hold of me via email. Let me know how the Army's doing in the infantry units. What I've been told in the past few years, going back into the Trump administration, is that, there's a lot of that woke shit in the Pentagon you're talking about, the top brass, but the combat troops are still populated with real Americans who have testicles and love this country. So that, I think, would be a big test. And I think that is why they want a drone army. They want an AI army that obeys commands and doesn't require a love of country. Yeah. Anyways, great stuff, man. We've gone past an hour, by the way. I have many more questions for you, but we're out of time.
If any of my son's buddies that may still be in the 4th ID have any information or have some inside stuff there, get a hold of me. I'd like to hear about anything that might be going on that way, because I heard Fourth ID might be involved in some of this.
Great, good deal. I've got anyone with real inside information. I don't want fucking conjecture and speculation. I do that in my sleep.
Oh, I don't. I saw something on this YouTube channel, and this guy said, that guy said, yeah, no, none of that. Just any direct information that doesn't violate any kind of, non-disclosure agreements or top secret classification stuff.
But yeah, I'm going into this weekend, man. I thank you for coming on, by the way. It's fantastic. I love talking with you about this shit. Especially people seeing how you can just carry a conversation through a series of ideas. And we are in a fantastic, and I don't mean that in a positive way, but a fantastic juncture in American history where a state is telling the government, not a conglomeration of states or a confederacy, if you will, but rather one state saying, fuck you, and other states joining them. Fascinating, man. And frightening.
Interesting times.
We are living in interesting times, brother. Everyone out there, we're going to be back Sunday Night Live, The Zoo, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless some crazy shit happens. I mean, we're talking crazy shit, like Uman was saying. That guy. I'll come on live. But short of that, we'll be back Sunday for sure, and we'll roll over everything that's happening. This is some serious shit. Good stuff, Uman. Thank you again, sir.
All right, everybody, have a good weekend. Stay mentally tough.
Ooh, that's good advice. Sound advice. Get prepared, damn it. Go to thepreparedmind.club and get what you fucking need now. Well, if you don't need it, you can always eat that food later. Anyways, and in any event, shit's gone south fast, has it not? Semper Fi. Godspeed.